Lisa, how are you?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Vicki and Ed. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Lisa, how are you?
Who's that? Penny Sadler, Vicki. Where is Lenore?
I don't see her yet. Okay, welcome everyone. I know we'll have a few people joining late and everyone always has problems getting in. Couple housekeeping things. First of all, there is a little mic down by your name, and if it's red with a slash through it, that means you're muted. So if you want to ask a question, be sure to unmute yourself. I believe I've set it so that everyone can unmute themselves. I don't need to control any of that. Penny, if there's someone there that can help you unmute, that would be great. And welcome everyone. It's been a while since we've done this. A lot of it was because we've been doing some home remodeling. We had to get my office back in shape. We had to update some bandwidth, and we're really excited to be back tasting. And I'm really excited to talk about Prosecco, because Prosecco was probably our household go-to sparkling. So it's one that we really love, and Penny and I know each other from travel writing, and when she's also a wine educator, so she said she was willing to talk about it, so I'm really excited. So I'll show you the bottle. I don't know if you can see it there. Do any of you have this to taste? Nope. Okay. Are any of you tasting?
Now what?
Click on it.
Are any of you tasting something else, either another sparkling or another Prosecco or some other wine, or no? Oh, Lisa.
No, we are.
Oh, good. I thought you'd let me down there. All right. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce Penny Sadler. Penny, take it away and help us learn about Prosecco and this lovely Prosecco from Voldo.
So does somebody else have it? Does Vicki have it?
No, I have Costco. Sorry.
Okay.
No.
But you have Prosecco, right?
Yes.
Okay. So to be honest with you, one of the reasons that we have the Valdo Prosecco this evening is because I happened to receive a sample of it. And so I said, hey, Mary Jo, how about if I get you a sample too, and we'll talk about Prosecco, because it's summer and Prosecco is fresh and light and fruity and a nice summer wine. So, but the Valdo is nice. It's a family that has been making Prosecco in Italy for over 100 years. And the Valdo Marca Oro, which is what we have, the gold label, is...
Yeah. Sorry, I've seen it before.
Yeah, it's very popular. It's the #1 selling Prosecco in Italy, according to the brand ambassador. And did you know, this is just a little bit of trivia, the Brits drink the most Prosecco?
No, really?
Really?
Yeah, they drink the most Prosecco. So anyways, this family has been making wine for 100 years. And does anybody remember, this is also trivia that doesn't have a lot to do with Prosecco, but does anybody remember Bolla Suave or Bolla Valpolicella?
Yes.
Yes.
His family is that Bolla family. So they no longer have the Bolla brand, but that's who they are. So so a couple of things that I wanted you guys to know about if you drink a lot of Prosecco or you're interested in drinking more Prosecco. Well, how do you know, like, is it going to be good? So there's a couple of ways to know. One, Mary Jo and I were talking about earlier. I don't know if you can see this very well. It kind of disappears in the background.
Yeah.
It's the green bottle against the green.
Oh, well, maybe I can just kind of, let me try again. Here.
Background.
There it is. Well, so, there it is. Okay. So on the neck of the bottle, there's a little label. And it will say on it DOC or DOCG. And, sorry? Oh, so
On mine, it's like the little seal thing that goes over the top of the cap and the cork.
yeah.
The little blue.
Yeah, this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should say on there DOC. There should be a little round seal and then it'll say DOCG next to it. So what that means is that your wine was really made in Italy and that it really is Prosecco. And it has to be made in the Veneto region of Italy. And it has to be a certain sort of grape called the Zara grape, at least 85%. So that label tells you that for sure you are getting Prosecco from Italy and not some other kind of sparkling wine. So it's kind of like Champagne can only come from Champagne region of France. Prosecco can only come from the Veneto region of Italy. So DOC is sort of the first level of quality. So it's let's see if I can say it. Denominazione di origine controllata. So it's designation of controlled origin. So when you get to the next level, which is the DOCG, this is your higher quality Prosecco. So you're going to pay a little more for it. Like this bottle is around $15. At DOCG, you'll pay maybe $22 to say $35 for it.
And still, compared to champagne, and this is, I think, one of the reasons we always started drinking Prosecco, it's a really affordable price point for some great quality sparkling.
Question I would like to ask her at some point is to compare Cava.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get a decent bottle of
Yeah, at the end. Yeah.
under $20.
Mary Jo, did you hear the question?
I heard something about how does Prosecco compare to Cava?
Okay.
Aren't
So-
we?
And maybe we should do some Cava tasting too.
So Prosecco, Cava, and Champagne are all made, it's how they're fermented. So Prosecco is fermented twice, but the fermentation takes place in sort of a large pressurized tank. So it's big, and it's a very techy kind of process. And then it's bottled right away from the tank to the bottle and sold. So it doesn't age, and it's not fermented in the bottle. Champagne and Cava are fermented in the bottle. So it's a longer process. It's a more labor-intensive process, and that's why it's more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's called the metodo italiano, the Italian method, which is also referred to as the tank method or the Sharma method. So that's the big difference, is the way that the wine is fermented, and then also the way that it's aged. And because Prosecco isn't really aged, it's ready, you bottle it, you drink it. you want to, you don't want to leave your Prosecco sitting around for years. It's not going to be good.
Yeah, I never lost at our house that long.
Me either. But you can, now if you get a DOCG, I had one recently that was a 2014. And it was good. It was really good. But you can't do that with you know, just any Prosecco. So a lot of the Prosecco that you get, especially the DOC, so I was talking to Mary Jo about this earlier because this is important. So these hills that you see in the background that we're sitting in, where you wish we were sitting in, those are the hills of Prosecco, where the DOC, this is DOCG area.
Now let's help people orient, because as much as we'd love to go to Italy, we're not. The Prosecco region is adjacent to Venice.
Yeah.
And if someone was going to go to visit this region, is that likely the area where they'd stay, or is there somewhere closer that would be a better choice?
Well, you need a car because you can't get out into the hills any other way. But there's a lot of places you can stay. You could stay in Padua. You could stay in Treviso, for example. Treviso would be a great place to stay because one of the regions, the sub-regions, is called Treviso, and that there's 80% of the DOC Proseccos from that.
Oh, okay.
So it's a beautiful area. I haven't been in the hills, but I have been around Treviso and of course Venice. Has everybody been to Venice? Everybody's going, yep. Okay, cool. Yeah.
It gets such a bad rap, and I really loved Venice.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, wouldn't it be fabulous to be there now?
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine?
I want to go to Italy without all the other tourists so bad. I really do. So yeah, so you work for Venice, and you could do a trip to Venice and then book. There's all kinds of, they call agriturismos. So there's like, you know, working farms that are out in the hills. And then some of the wineries have places to stay as well.
So where is Voldo within this region, or on the map behind me, or not the map, the photo behind me?
Well, so the photo is from the Valdo PR people, and it is, so if you're in Venice, it's directly west, and it's in this little sub-region where it's the DOCG region called Valdobbiadene. And
Yeah, I practiced saying that before, and that's a tough one for me. Valdobbiadene. Valdobbiadene.
so they basically, what they did is they took the name Valdo because of the region. They just are playing off the name of the region. But they also have vineyards there. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because we have a little bit more information coming soon.
We're hoping that we will have a surprise guest here. Well, I'll just say, you know, from Voldo. We're hoping that we will have someone joining us from Voldo here in another 15 minutes or so. But it's you know, always difficult to coordinate the actual people from the winery. And hopefully we will have Matteo joining us, who is actually a member of the Voldo family that originally founded the winery many generations ago. So we're hoping he'll be able to make it in. So I'm keeping my eye out to see when he joins us. So tell us a little bit more about visiting the Prosecco region. So if we wanted to go there and do some wine tasting, do you have some tips for us?
I haven't been wine tasting there yet myself. But Matteo's going to have some information about visiting the region for sure. But you know, really, I would say you have to have a car.
Yeah.
before you hire a driver, because look at those hills. I mean,
Yeah, no, you couldn't. It's like being in Tuscany. You really do need the car to get from one hill town across the valley to the next hill town. So
I'll tell you, I did spend some time in Treviso and another town in the Veneto called Bassano del Grappa. And they're both on Bassano del Grappa is on a river, on the Brenta River. And Treviso has some canals, so it's sometimes referred to as a little Venice. And they're both really lovely alternative places to stay, you know, to explore the area if you don't want to stay in Venice. You know, sometimes you get a few days of Venice and you're like, okay, I'm done with that. So you could stay in one of those other places and then get your driver or a car and go out and explore the hills. But I stayed, believe it or not, I stayed 5 days in, well, several different places around Italy in these hill towns in the wine country, in Barolo and another place in Tuscany called Panzano. And you really do have to have a car. But 5 days sounds like a lot, but I didn't get bored.
now, Lisa, I know that you and Cheryl spend a fair amount of time in Venice and have off and on over the years. When you were there, were you drinking Prosecco? Or you have to unmute yourself.
There I am.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Venice is actually one of our favorite cities in the world. We love it. We spend as much time there as possible. And yes, sipping the Prosecco, anything that they have there is wonderful. We haven't done a lot of going outside of the area. We've always meant to, but then we just again fall in love with discovering the city and just spending time there.
Lisa, where do you live?
Oh, we live in Florida, in the Tampa area.
Do you have a website?
Oh, we do. We're What Boundaries Travel.
That's what I thought. Okay. I was like, I know this person.
Yes.
Where's Cheryl tonight?
She has a very early morning, so she's called it early. It's after 10 here, so it's she's got a really early conference call in the morning, so she called it early and left her wine with me.
Good for her. So Penny, do you have any tips to help us pick the right Prosecco? I mean, you know, often, you know, you just kind of go to the store and, you know, we're with Vicki and Ed, you know, we'll head up Costco or Total Wine. We'll kind of look at what there's a special, you know, are they promoting something, but how can we find the right choice for us? Because it's a very personal thing.
Yeah, so there's several different things. One that I already mentioned, which was you want to look for the DOC, the DOCG label on the neck of the bottle. And then you can also look, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but on the bottle, where did it go?
It's a problem of having a green bottle and a
It's
green
magic.
screen, so.
Okay, so anyway, on the label, it says, it'll usually say where it's from. And it, like in more detail, not just like from the Veneto, but it might say which town or which region. On this bottle, it says Valdobbiadene. So that tells you it's from one of the top regions in the Veneto.
I don't have my glasses.
Yeah, I had to put mine on too. It's in small print.
The other thing that you, another region that's good always is Treviso. If it's from kind of outside of that, it's probably going to be medium quality. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but your better quality is going to be Treviso, DOC, or in this case, Valdobbiadene. And then the other thing that you need to know is what kind of wine do you like? Dry, sweet, or semi-sweet? Because
What would you classify this Valdo as?
so this is a Brut, and it says that on the label. And so
Extra dry.
the levels of sweetness are Brut, extra dry, dry, and demi-sec, I think is the last one. Brut is the driest.
Okay.
With, let's see, 0 to 12 grams of residual sugar.
Okay, Vicky, what are you? Is yours a Brut as well?
Yeah. I think it's dry.
Ours is extra dry.
Okay.
So you have 12 to 17 grams of residual sugar. Does it say where yours is from?
A solo.
So a solo is another sub-region. And it's one of the top regions.
So Costco goes and gets their Prosecco from Italy?
Yeah.
Yes, it
It
says product of
It
Italy.
says product of Italy, DOCG.
All right, there you go.
Bottle. So do
I'm
you like?
shocked.
Oh, it's awesome. You can't beat the price, especially when you're drinking Aperol spritzes.
For real. I love Aperol Spritz. So what's the brand?
It's Kirkland.
Oh, their house brand.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's really good. I'll tell you what, for the price, it can't be beat.
So what's
And
what's the price point on that?
$6.99.
What?
Oh, you're kidding.
So they're making that exclusively for Costco.
Yeah,
And that's a DOCG, you said?
yep.
Wow. So
Costco, here I come.
have you tried that one?
No, but I think I need to make a trip.
Because I have to tell you, when we look at the $6.99, Tony, who's a bit of a price snob, is like, oh, it can't be good if that's all it costs.
So I'm
But
coming too.
you're saying it's a DOCG, which means it's a little cut above everything. Sounds like it's worth it. I mean, it's $7. It's worth a try.
Yeah, try it.
You know what? When we were in Italy, we were there pretty extensively for 3 weeks in Tuscany, toured all around, went to all kinds of wineries, and they said the same thing about the DOCGs. We learned about that. And no matter what the price point is on a wine that we've had that's DOCG, it's been fabulous. So, you know, I just think that's true.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's very strict laws and regulations about how it's made and who can put that on the label. And it has to be DOC for 10 years before it can become DOCG. So, yeah, it does matter. It really does matter. So, yes.
So that Tony, when we've been in Italy, did we drink Prosecco? I think we've stuck pretty much with the red wines.
Actually, all we've done is the house red at most restaurants,
Yeah.
which is still pretty good. I know.
Yes. It was awesome. We had the same experience. It's just always we went with the house red. We were never disappointed. We found some really good, obviously now we know it wasn't Prosecco, but we found some really good bubbly in New Zealand, or maybe it was Australia. Yeah, it actually was in Australia. We had some just fabulous, outside of Melbourne, we had some just fabulous sparkling wines there. But, you know, when you go to Italy, we weren't really aware that Prosecco was from Italy. So we're like thrilled. Next time we go to Venice, we'll start drinking Prosecco.
Absolutely.
I think we started simply because it was a friendlier price point. I mean, you know, bubbly is always fun, and you know, especially during the summer. I mean, we had a bottle earlier this week just because it's sort of refreshing. It's not heavy. And it's far more affordable. I mean, there are price points with it that you can have. It's an everyday choice, not just a special occasion choice.
Right.
You know, Vicky, it was funny you mentioned Cava, because I can really tell the difference between a Cava and a Prosecco. Is it real obvious to you, Penny?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's very different because Cava's aged.
I don't particularly care for Cava.
It's not one of my favorites, but if it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
But when I'm in Spain, I want to drink Cava. When I'm in France, I want to drink champagne. When I'm in Italy, I want to drink Prosecco. It's sort of like, I want to eat local. I want to drink local. And at home,
like you want to drink.
Yeah, right. Well, there is that. There is that. But it's sort of like, it's an opportunity to enjoy what's local. And I think that's always a good choice. Just like we've said, you just get whatever the house wine is at the restaurant because chances are grandma and grandpa are making it in the backyard.
That's true.
So any other Prosecco tips for us?
Any other Prosecco tips? Yes. Let me look. I have notes.
I know you have lots of them. Penny has a lot of has several articles about Prosecco on her website, and I'll be including that in the follow-up email as well as the blog posts that I do about that. So I know she's written about it a lot.
So, well, what I was going to ask you, what do you taste when you taste this Prosecco? The notes that I have from Matteo say lemon zest, green apples. Green apples a common flavor profile for Prosecco. Pear, sometime. If it's extra dry, maybe you'll get some peach.
Actually, for this one, I normally pick up on the apple and the pear. For some reason, my palate really zeroes in on that, and I'm not getting any of that, but I am getting the lemon, and I think this is fairly sweet on my palate.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, I do. Not in a bad way. I mean, not like syrupy sweet, but that's why I was surprised to hear that it was I should have read the label, that it was a Brut, because I thought it was a little sweeter.
Yeah. I think I don't know exactly what the sugar is on it,
It's drier.
but it's not much.
So Melanie, are you joining us in your tasting? Do you have anything in a glass there handy? And you're muted, so you have to unmute yourself in order for us to hear you.
No, I'm drinking Chardonnay because I didn't make it to the store today.
Well, that's fine. So Vicky, what the Kirkland choice for the Prosecco? What are the flavor profiles you're picking up?
Getting green apple.
Yeah, definitely the green apple. Maybe just a hint of the lemon. I'm not sure about pear. When I'm asking my friends here, Ann and Ed.
It's very dry, so there's no pear sweetness to me at all. But a lot of the green apple, lemon. I'll have to have another sip.
I do see that Matteo has signed in. So do you want me to ask him to join us now?
Sure.
All right. And would you do me the favor of introducing him to everyone?
Sure.
All right. Now, this is Matteo Bolla, who is part of the founding family of Voldo. And it'll take him a minute to join us.
Hi, Mel.
Hi, Tony.
Ciao, Matteo. We can't hear you.
You have to unmute yourself.
Joe's husband, Tony.
Here we go. Ciao.
Yay.
Ciao.
Ciao.
That's a pleasure to be with all of you. How are you?
Doing well, Matteo. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, it's my
Glad you're
turn to
still
pour the
awake.
glass. I assume you are a little bit far ahead of me.
Yes, we are.
Go ahead and pour myself a glass of Valdo Prosecco Brut.
See this glass that he has? None of us have the glass, but that's a nice glass for Prosecco.
That's beautiful.
Yes, exactly. And I can tell you why it's a nice
Let's
glass.
see.
Oh,
Hold
tell
it
us.
up. Hold it up, Bart.
I will. So here you go. This is
Oh,
Oh, it's
yes.
beautiful.
I would say like a hybrid between a flute and a white wine glass. Now, why is that? Normally, a flute is beautiful to watch, very nice. It holds the bubbles very well, but it doesn't allow the aroma of the wine to really open up. And therefore, this solution is both keeping the bubbles as much as possible, and at the same time allowing the aromas to really to be perceived at the maximum. So here we go.
It holds more than
Cheers.
4 ounces. Cheers.
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 So I understand you are in the West Coast right now.
Yeah,
Well,
Or
we're
at least most-
actually, let's see, you're in Miami, is that right?
Yes, getting ready for what can it be? Maybe the first storm, the first hurricane of the season.
Well, Lisa is also in Florida, and let's see, Melanie, Vicky, Anthony, and I are in the Seattle area. Penny's in Texas. Penny Sadler. Penny, other Penny, where are you?
North Carolina, Newbern.
North Carolina. So we're.
Well, it looks like you are in Valdobbiadene, to be honest, because you have an amazing background.
we actually are in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Just for the weekend, long weekend.
Sounds amazing.
Tell us about your family and your winery, and I mean, Penny's
Sure.
told us a lot about it, but there's nothing like the family touch.
Absolutely. So the history of my family starts in 1883. We had a restaurant in the province of Verona, in Soave, where we were serving food to the soldiers that were going on the fight against the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So we started to serve food and wine and give shelter to the soldiers. And then my great-great-great-grandfather started to think, well, let's start to get a winery and make quality wine and serve our own wine. So this is how the Bolla family started into the wine business. Now, in 1926, a few decades after, a group of enterprising winemakers in Valdobbiadene started Società Anonima Vini Superiori, which was a company devoted to the production of Prosecco, mainly Prosecco. In 1938, my grandfather, Sergio Bolla, purchased the winery of Prosecco, while at the same time, we were making still wine under the name Bolla, so under the family name. So we had the Soave Bolla, the red wines, Valpolicella and Amarone. At the same time, my grandfather started this venture into the Prosecco. At the time, it was not very popular, but after Second World War, my grandfather renamed the Prosecco winery Valdo. Why Valdo? Valdo is the abbreviation of Valdobbiadene, so it's the town at the heart of Prosecco, the heart of the historic area of Prosecco. So the family went on to produce still wine under the Bolla brand and sparkling wine, especially Prosecco, under the brand Valdo. In the 1950s, my grandfather launched the Bolla brand in the US. Maybe some of you will remember how popular Bolla was. It was Frank Sinatra's favorite wine at some point. He refused to sit at the table if they didn't have a Soave Bolla in Manhattan. So Bolla became more and more international and more popular, while Valdo and Prosecco stayed more or less in Italy. It was more of a local consumption. Fast forward at the end of the 90s, Bolla was sold 100% to an American corporation, Brown-Forman, which is the Jack Daniels corporation, while Valdo remained entirely in the Bolla family. So my uncle is currently the president and CEO. My father and two other Bolla members are the other shareholders. So basically, what happened is that the Bolla brand, after many decades of success and popularity, went on a downward trajectory, while Valdo took off because the Prosecco became very popular, as you know. And so for the past 15 years, Valdo is the #1 selling Prosecco in Italy and in Germany.
Interesting.
And at the moment, our dream, our plan is to make Valdo loved by the American people as well. And that's why I'm here. I am in the 4th generation of Bolla family. I moved in the US 3 years ago. Finally, I was born in the US. And then after a few months, they brought me in Italy, so I have no memory of that. But finally, I am back after more than 30 years to the land that gave me birth. So I live here permanently. In the past 3 years, I was in New York. Then a month ago, I moved with my wife here in Miami, from an epicenter to another epicenter. And,
Most of us are in an epicenter.
and so, you know, Valdo is specialized, has been always specialized in Prosecco since 1926. So we are on track to celebrate our 100-year anniversary in 2026. Our core business is a Prosecco Superiore DOCG, which is coming from the Conegliano Valdobbiadene area, the beautiful hills that you have on your background, which last year has been proclaimed in July UNESCO World Heritage Site. We have our historical cellars over there. We also have a new vinification facility. And we are building, this is a very exciting project, we're building a new hospitality center called Casa Valdo, which will see the light in 2022, unless there are some delays due to the current situation. But this will be an amazing center to, first of all, experience Valdobbiadene. All our products that currently are not available in the US, think that Valdo makes more than 30 different labels of Prosecco.
Oh.
And some of them are expression of very small terroirs, sometimes just a very steep slope of a hill. So it can be very terroir driven and very unique. And also we will have a couple of other features like a few rooms to stay the night,
Nice.
rooms. And so we really want to extend our strong connection with the territory.
And what was your projected open date for that?
Well, this is difficult to say, but we have completed all the groundwork. The building looks on a good track. I would say end of 2022. If we want to be, I think, safe, I would say beginning of 2023.
Okay, putting
but
that
at
on
the
my
moment,
calendar.
but at the moment, we offer a lot of interesting experiences in Valdobbiadene. For instance, we can walk our visitor to our cellar, to our bottling line. Then we have this opportunity to pop a nice bottle of Valdo in the hills to enjoy the beautiful view, and then you know, walk our guests to their hotel, or what we call agriturismo, which is a hybrid between a hotel and farm.
Yeah, the best.
So We're in at the beginning of I would say of a long journey. We are here in the U.S. to stay, and again, our family have a very special history with the U.S. So we would love to repeat the success that Bolla had in the 50s and 60s. To be honest with you, when I see Bolla bottles of wine in the stores, which are still there, I have a bit of mixed feelings because obviously it's my family name, but it doesn't belong to the family anymore. But who knows? One day maybe the Bolla will come back. Who knows?
Matteo, would you take some questions from people if they have them?
Yes, I have to apologize. I tend to talk a lot. This is an Italian feature.
It is an Italian thing. So who's got questions for Matteo? No, everybody was chatty earlier.
Where would we be able to find your wine in the U.S. now?
This is a great question. So before the pandemic, 70% of our wine here in the U.S. were distributed in restaurants and hotels. So the landscape has changed massively for us. We took a big hit. So now what we're looking is that we are boosting as much as possible the retail business and the e-commerce. So to your question, I would suggest to look at wine.com, because at the moment, I didn't understand, Anthony, which states you are right now. But
we're in the state of Washington.
Washington. So in Washington, for instance, I would recommend either go to wine.com, where you can find the Marca Oro, which is our flagship, which I can talk to you in a second to describe the product.
Okay.
But also the 1926, which is our Prosecco Superiore from Valdobbiadene, so the DOCG. Both products are on wine.com. A third product is coming, which is our Rosé. As you can see, it's a floral bottle, very nice. The collaboration with an artist in Italy. But specifically to that region, which I love. I traveled to Seattle so many times. I am in love with Mount Rainier. Every time I look at Mount Rainier, for me, it's just so romantic. And we have distribution in central markets. So town and country markets have our product.
Well, when you're in Seattle, give us a call. We'll meet you for a glass of wine.
With great pleasure. When travel can be resumed, the West Coast for us is as important as the East Coast. Most of our distribution are along the coast, also on the third coast in Chicago, Illinois. But
I like that. It's a good way to put it.
I would say that, yeah, the majority of our business comes from New York, Florida, California, and Washington. Then for other states in the middle like Texas, Illinois, but these are the key market also for consumption of Prosecco.
But we could go to our favorite market and ask about it, and certainly let them know it's something that we're interested in purchasing.
Absolutely. But my recommendation is wine.com because it delivers right at your door. They have a stewardship program where if you spend around $50, the delivery is free. Otherwise, it's on top. Specifically to Texas, our products are in specs. So I would recommend to go to the liquor store chain specs. Then I don't know which city you are in Texas.
What about Florida, where you are and Lisa's there?
So Florida, currently we are in Winn-Dixie, talking about retail, because I can tell you many restaurants, but again, here the restrictions are quite unpredictable. One day you can open outdoor restaurant, the second day bars are closed. So to give some reliable accounts, I would say Winn-Dixie, I would say Fresh Market with the floral, and a few other independent liquor stores. But again, I am in charge of the whole US market and Canada as well. So I can provide more granular detail in case you are interested. I'm sure Penny can share my contact details, and I'm more than happy to give you my recommendation for any state in the US. But again, if you are, for instance, in Idaho, as you said, Vicky, I actually would like to try one thing because, and this is my, I have to say, I apologize. It's, I've never been to Idaho. So.
That's okay. You really don't need to visit.
So Idaho is ID, right? The abbreviation. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just checked on wine.com and we have both products, both the yellow label, our flagship Marca Oro, and the 1926. So again, wine.com, type Valdo as a brand, and you see our product. So who has the Valdo tasting right now?
We do.
You do? Oh, amazing. Great. So if you're tasting this product here, this is featuring our most iconic label. It's called Marca Oro, which basically means our golden seal, or better, our gold standard. This label has been introduced in the 1950s in Italy. So it is one of the most historic, iconic labels of Prosecco worldwide. It is 100% Glera grape. As you know, Glera is the grape of Prosecco. You need to have a minimum of 85% of Glera. And then the rest 15%, you can use other blending grapes like white grapes like Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc or Pinot Noir vinified in white, or even indigenous grape like Bianchetta, Pereira, Verdiso, which are only found in the Prosecco region. All the other grapes that I mentioned, like Chardonnay, they have to grow in the Prosecco region. So you cannot have 85% of Glera and 50% Chardonnay from Australia, for instance. No, it has to be grown in the region. This is Brut. So Brut, I'm sure you're familiar, but we can spend a couple of seconds on the residual sugar or the sweetness levels of Prosecco.
We
Brut
talked
means, you talked about, right? You talked about how confusing it is in a way, or counterintuitive, right? Because Brut means less sugar in the Prosecco categories. Extra dry means higher residual sugar, which it's
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but I haven't created it. I promise. It's not my responsibility. But it's important to educate the American customers about that, because when you read extra dry, you could think, oh, it must have no sugar. No, it has more sweetness. It's very crisp, very refreshing. It's great on its own, but it's also perfect for mixology. So my favorite mixology with Valdo Prosecco Brut cocktails are, well, spritz, probably the most popular right now, which can be done with different bitters, because most of customers here, they call it Aperol spritz. But Aperol is just one kind of bitter. So you can have a Campari spritz, you can have a Select spritz. They all have different bitterness there. And another cocktail that I love is the Mimosa. So Mimosa is basically freshly squeezed juice, typically orange juice, and Prosecco. But my favorite, which is a little bit more elaborated to make, but is watermelon, fresh watermelon juice, Prosecco Valdo, and a little bit of mint, fresh mint. Ooh.
I love watermelon.
Ooh, that sounds refreshing.
Yeah.
For summer is perfect. The only thing is that you don't realize how much Prosecco you're drinking, because it's so nice, it's so pleasant, and after the third one you're like, oh, hang on a second, let's sit down.
It's the sugar that gets you too.
And next morning.
Yeah. But please, if you have other questions, I'm happy to reply, or I can talk very briefly about the other product that you can find.
Sure. Tell us about that. We've been talking about the gold label, but why don't you tell us about the 1926 product?
Yeah, so 1926 is a tribute to the founding year of the winery. It is a Prosecco Superiore DOCG. So DOCG stands for the highest classification of Italian wines. That means that is a very specific geographical location, territory. They have a little bit more strict rules when it comes to production. For instance, the yields and other more sophisticated rules that I'm not going to tell right now, but basically it is the highest classification. So it is definitely a more refined product, and it comes from the beautiful hills that you have as a background. So those hills, as I mentioned before, has been proclaimed UNESCO World Heritage Site. That's where our winery is. All the grapes are harvested by hand. The slopes are so incredibly steep that our grape growers, they earn the heroic viticulturist reputation because they cannot run any harvesting machinery over there because it's too steep. So they are just harvesting by hand. And if you get a rainy day during the harvest, it can get quite slippery and quite challenging. So in this case, we have 90% of Glera and 10% Chardonnay. So it is a more, as I said, refined product with a more international appeal because of the Chardonnay grape. It has a longer production method than the yellow label. So the method is called Martinoti Sharma method. Basically, the bubbles are happening in pressurized steel tanks, as opposed to champagne, where all the bubbles are happening in each bottle. So basically, when you put the wine after the first fermentation, so the grapes are pressed to a certain temperature, adding yeast. The yeast eats the sugar, transforms into alcohol. So the must becomes wine. That's the first fermentation. The second fermentation happens in the tanks. So we put the wine, we add sugar, we add yeast, but since the tank is pressurized, so the CO2 cannot escape, the yeast eats the sugar and creates CO2. So that's how the bubbles happen. And in this product, yes.
So I was talking about this earlier. Can you, since that's the DOCG wine is higher quality wine, so yeah, you can keep it a little longer?
Exactly. So by law, you have the minimum, okay? So you have minimum of 60 days, Martinoti method. And at Valdo, we have many expressions of Prosecco that are following longer Sharma method. For instance, in this case, it is 5 months. In the yellow label is 3 months. But we also have a 12-month, a very long Sharma, which is resulting in very fine bubbles and the different nuances, different expressions. So, you know, as I said, you can have a lot of Prosecco that are the expression of a small territory. For instance, when you look at the DOCG is formed of 43 fractions, okay? So DOCG is Conegliano Valdobbiadene. These are the two main villages, okay? But the area is divided in 43 fractions called rive. So if you see a Prosecco that says Valdobbiadene Prosecco Superiore Rive di San Pietro di Barbozza, that's just one name, you know that the grapes come only from that fraction. And then you can even go higher in the qualitative pyramid. The very top is called Cartizze. So the Cartizze is just one hill, and it is the most sought after Prosecco. He has the highest price point. But most of the Cartizze, it is vinified in high sweetness level because of the history. Cartizze actually comes from the dialect Cartoccio, where basically is a method that they were using to do drying grapes and to make sweet wines. So as a result of this technique, the Prosecco that comes from the Cartizze hill is mostly vinified with a higher residual sugar and used as a dessert wine. But if you look at the DOCG, you have, again, Conegliano Valdobbiadene, Rive, and Cartizze. So at Valdo, we cover all the different layers of the denomination, and we are the only winery of Prosecco that makes consistently, year after year, vintage after vintage, a metodo classico. So a traditional method, a bottle fermented Prosecco Superiore. So not in the tank, like let's say 99% of Prosecco, but with a bottle fermentation, only 20,000 bottles per vintage. This comes from our state-owned vineyards. And it's coming to the US in Q2 next year, by the way, so stay tuned. It's called Numero 10. Why Numero 10? Because it's 10-month secondary fermentation in the bottle. So it also 10-gram residual sugar per liter. So let's say 10 is the number of this product, and it's really the pinnacle of our production. We will have a small distribution. We will present this to the trade, to the media, to influencers, to elevate the prestige of the winery, because there is no other wineries able to do that. We started in 2004. And when you come at Valdo, we can offer you a vertical degustation of different vintages. So this is something very unique.
I think Vicky had a question. So
I was wondering if that 1926 is also a Brut.
No, it's extra dry.
Okay.
So it has a higher residual sugar. And if you look at the total production of Prosecco, around 65 to 70% is made extra dry. 30 to 35 is Brut. So Brut, it's actually coming recently because more and more people that are familiar with Prosecco, they appreciate the Brut versions also because the Brut version are enhancing more of the floral aromas. While if you have a little bit more residual sugar, you tend to have more fruit. So why extra dry is the most popular? Because Prosecco for us is really at any hour of the day. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like a brunch, is lunch, is also lunch, for many people. And so the slightly higher residual sugar really have that easy to drink, more, I would say, perfect for happy hour. While Brut also have a little bit more character, I would say, to pair with more sophisticated dishes.
Okay.
So the DOCG 1926, this one is perfect to pair, for instance, with a risotto or fish or white meat. The Brut versions are also an all-meal companion. So we drink Prosecco across the whole meal, but the extra dry typically is for the happy hour. And then the more you go towards the dinner, you tend to have more Brut. And then you come back to, let's say, a dessert option like a Cartizze to really clean the palate and leave the table with a smile.
You're still standing.
So, yeah, so again, the rosé also is another bottle that will be available on wine.com soon. And it is a unique blend. It is a recipe that we developed at Valdo. It is 75% Nerello Mascalese from Sicily, from the Etna volcano, and 25% Glera, the Prosecco Glera. So this is a very unique recipe. But what is very, very exciting is the fact that we have the approval to make Prosecco Rosé, finally.
Oh.
This is a brand new appellation that will see the light at the end of, let's say, Q4 this year. And we will be one of the first wineries to market Prosecco Rosé in the US. So
when do you see that coming to the US?
Okay, so this is still pending in the sense that in August we will have the official communication. Then you need to have a minimum of 60 days Martinoti Sharma method for production. And then let's say between end of October, beginning of November, you can start with the shipments. Obviously, all the shipments from Italy come by boat.
Yeah.
So it takes around a month to reach the East Coast and around maybe 2 months to reach the West Coast. So the timing is not right because they should have approved it earlier in order to take advantage of the Christmas sales across the US. But it's happening, and the characteristics of this product will be minimum 85% Glera, up to 90%, and the rest Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir is from 10 to 15%. Then it will be mandatory to have the vintage year on the label, so it's going to be vintage. And only spumante version. So spumante means the bottle with the cork and a higher atmospheric pressure, so more bubbles. Prosecco and Prosecco, Prosecco can be also frizzante version, which you can find with the twist top, screw cap, or a string, but you will see that the level of bubbles is weaker. I would say 80% of all Prosecco is made spumante, 20% is frizzante. Prosecco Rosé will be only spumante.
So realistically, perhaps next summer, we'll all be able to drink your
yeah, for sure. Even Easter will be big time, but even Valentine's Day. I would say Valentine's Day for the West Coast and Christmas for the East Coast. For the wineries, that will be the first market we want to be, and so I can give you a little, let's say, a little heads up. So the Prosecco Rosé will be the same label of Marca Oro, but pink, and a nice transparent glass, because we think that with rosé, the first purchase is made by the eye, and then by the mouth.
Well, that would be that rosé will be a beautiful color for Valentine's Day. So
absolutely. It's important.
Yeah,
and it's exciting because it's a brand new category that I'm sure the American wine lovers will definitely appreciate. And for us, it's important to be first to market because, again, we want to establish Valdo in the US as one of the leading, most trusted wineries of Prosecco, with a high level of specialization and quality in all level of production. And so we want to be, you know, climbing the ranking of wineries that are more established than us. And I think the Prosecco Rosé is a great opportunity. When I say the ranking, I would like to say that in the American market, there is a lot of, allow me to say this term, mediocre Prosecco. Because what happened is that there is a lot of fantasy labels, a lot of, I call them even boardroom labels that are decided under the, you know, corporate room. that are only basically trying to get advantage of some misconception or some confusion that there is in the American market. So you have a proliferation of labels that is incredible, but you cannot trace the winery, you cannot trace the history, the quality, and if you go in Italy, these labels don't exist. You don't see them around, right? So with Valdo, you can be sure that it is the Prosecco that Italian people drink.
Well, Matteo, thank you very much for your time. I think we've run out of all of our questions. We're running a little bit over what we normally do. Thank you so much for joining us. Penny, thank you so much for all your information and answering our questions before and encouraging Matteo to join us. I want to thank all of you for joining our tasting this evening, regardless of what was in your glass. We hope you enjoyed it. And so it's been a tough summer, guys, but cheers to things getting better.
Yes.
Thank
Cheers,
you, Matteo, Penny.
Stay safe,
Thank
be
you.
safe, and let's hope for a better future soon. And really, thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk about my family.
Thanks for coming, Matteo.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.